This team did something that has never happened in history. This guy did something that has never been done in history again. Made this guy a millionaire while doing it. Now this guy is suing this guy because of it. This team literally isn't a team anymore, which caused some freakouts. This was the worst call of all time. This man took a shoe off in the middle of a game, and a man with big hands threw out a first pitch. The 2024 regular season is over, except it already should have been over. Then a literal hurricane came and it absolutely screwed one of these three teams who were all battling over 2 playoff spots. But as heartbreaking as this outcome was, it wasn't as bad as this team, who was literally the worst MLB team of all time. But the craziest part is, just 3 years ago, they were one of the best teams. People deemed them the youngest team with the brightest future. They won over 90 games, won their division, but just 3 years later, this guy's in Mexico. He retired. He was cut by the Astros this year. He got cut by the Marlins. They sent him to the minors in Baltimore. The Cubs sent this guy to the minors. These three are all still in the White Sox and are having terrible years. Somehow, not one player who was on this team is good anymore, and the people who are still on the White Sox are the worst team ever. Even their own post-game show hates them.
I can't even get to the chair.
They're last in batting average, last in on-base percentage, last in slugging, have the least amount of homers, have scored the least amount of runs, and according to WAR, have the worst defense in baseball. They started the season 1-10, then went on to go 2 weeks without winning a single game.
I have lost it. 13 in a row? Are you kidding me? 13 losses for the White Sox in a row.
They ended up losing 14 games in a row in the most insufferable ways possible. They blew a 5-0 lead and lost on a pickoff play. The next day, they balked in a run. Their next pitcher came in, balked a run into third, then threw a ball to the backstop to allow a run, and blew another 5-0 lead on a walk-off. Their former manager sat on a cactus on TV because he said it felt better than watching them play. Their second baseman got nailed in the face on a throw down to second during warm-ups. They even lost a game after the tying run on first literally forgot how many outs there were. At one point, they even began blaming umpires.
I wish I punched you in the face. Look at how fat he is. He should be embarrassed to wear that uniform.
This call had no effect on the game at all. They lost 9-0 and let up 3 runs on one of the funniest errors of the season.
The White Sox have just gone full White Sox.
But nothing tops July when they lost 21 games in a row, going 4 weeks without winning a single game, the second longest losing streak in MLB history. Somehow, this was even more depressing when only an estimated 100 to 200 people showed up to a makeup game on August 29th. They watched the White Sox lose their 103rd game of the season, on pace to smash the record for most losses in history. The team's Twitter account just stopped tweeting out the final scores altogether, instead saying things like, "Go check the MLB app for the score," or quote, "The other team scored more runs than us," or straight up not reporting the score at all. They tied the record for most losses with a week left to play. It was inevitable. The fans came to watch them just to see them lose. They chanted "sell the team" the entire game. They're losing 2-0 in the 8th. Up to this point, they were an insane 0-94 when trailing after 7 innings. Then somehow the Angels dropped this ball and the White Sox won. Their own fans, pissed they didn't break the record, started booing their own team for winning. Luckily for them, the White Sox eventually did lose, becoming the worst team in baseball history. The team they lost to celebrated on the field that night. But just a few months ago, their season was just as screwed as the White Sox. In August, the Tigers had a .2% chance to make the playoffs. They haven't been to the playoffs in a decade. They haven't even had a winning record since 2016. In August, they essentially gave up. They traded away their second best player and their DH and their catcher and one of the best relievers in baseball. There was no point in keeping them because they knew they weren't going to the playoffs. The Guardians controlled the division all year. The Royals and Twins were battling for a playoff spot, but the Tigers were screwed. Then they started pulling off miracles. In a game down by 3, they were facing the Padres' best reliever, hadn't scored all game, had 2 outs, were down to their last strike when
in the air left field side, at the track at the wall. Oh my goodness!
They somehow won this game, but even this only raised their playoff odds to 7.5%. 5 games behind the Royals, they basically can't lose again. But they ended up playing the Royals, came back from 4-0 and won, then beat them in extras, the next day swept them on the road.
And this dream is getting closer,
raising their playoff odds 25% in only 3 days. But then they had to face the Orioles. The season looked done after they choked a lead in the 9th. Anthony Santander hit this ball that would win the game for the Orioles when Trey Sweeney, they rode this momentum and won it in extras. The next day, the Orioles hit this ball that would give them the lead in the 5th. Parker Meadows robbed it to save the game for the Tigers. And the 6th, Ramon Urias, should have tied the game. It hit the pitcher and somehow turned into an out. Kerry Carpenter turned into Babe Ruth, hit 2 homers, and the Tigers won. They won their next 2 and have only lost 3 games in 3 weeks. In the meantime, the Twins kept losing. They had a 95% chance to make the playoffs, and it went to basically 0 after blowing it against the Marlins.
Can't happen.
So defying all odds, the Royals and the Tigers, who had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, are in the postseason. Other things that had no chance of happening but actually did include the Astros. They were 8.5 games back, 12 games under 500, and were in last place. Somehow, they won the division again. The Rangers won the World Series last year. This year, they sucked. At one point, with DeGrom, Scherzer, and Kumar Rocker all on rehab assignments, their AAA team had a higher payroll than 3 major league teams, and they didn't even have a winning record this year. Not to mention the Oakland Athletics, who literally aren't even a team anymore, ending their existence in the saddest, most chaotic way possible. The Athletics have been talking about moving to Vegas for years. They traded their best players. Their stadium is infested with animals, and their owner is the most hated man in baseball. A coffee shop in Lake Tahoe where the owner owns a home banned him from the coffee shop. They even put a sign at the store that says, "Fuck John Fisher." They've thrown tomatoes at his face. Every game is filled with signs cursing him. Last season, the A's let kids run on the field, and even they chanted "sell the team." Every Athletics game is filled with these chants. However, Fisher is determined to keep the team and move it to Las Vegas. Leading up to the final home game ever, he released a letter to fans expressing his regret that the team has to move.
Deal with this.
Wow.
For all A's fans, I can't do this enough.
Fans did not buy this. They smashed piñatas of his head before the game. At the third to last game, this fan caught a foul ball and used it as an opportunity to flick him off from the stands. Last year, fans held a protest, filled the stadium. A few of them ran on the field, and afterwards, many of them threw things on the field. Leading up to this last game ever, MLB was worried. They added extra security, warned players to leave the field immediately after the game, saying they were in danger. The stadium was sold out for a game that started at noon on a Wednesday. There were lines at the gate starting at 7 a.m. People expected debauchery, but in reality, most of the fans were just sad but behaved. The grounds crew was even seen staying after the second to last game, giving dirt from the field to any fan who asked for it. A's legend Crazy George, who invented the wave, used to do it at every A's game. He came back to pump up the crowd one last time. Banjo Man played the banjo for decades in Oakland. He returned one last time. Over 46,000 Athletics fans showed up to watch their favorite team one last time. And for one last game, the A's brought back the glory days. They jumped out to an early lead, and with the game on the line, JJ Bleday made this catch. And for the last time ever, the Coliseum went crazy. After the final 7th inning stretch, reality set in. The game had to be stopped because a smoke bomb was thrown on the field. Then a beer bottle was thrown on the field. However, play resumed, and with a 3-2 lead, the Athletics brought in their star closer, Mason Miller, to try to get the final win in Oakland history. He struck out the first batter on a 103-mile-per-hour fastball, was blowing the doors off the next batter when a fan ran on the field. After juking security for a while, another fan ran on the field. Both were removed, then a beer was thrown on the field. The game was stopped, more objects were thrown, cleaned up, and the game resumed. Mason Miller struck out another batter on a 102-mile-per-hour fastball. Then another smoke bomb was thrown on the field. Pumped to get the last out in Oakland history, Mason Miller threw a pitch 104 miles per hour, got 2 strikes on Janikowski, and got him to ground out for the last out in Oakland history. Afterwards, the team addressed the fans, collected dirt as a speech was given to thousands who refused to leave the stadium. For hours, they stuck around crying. Finally, the police got every fan out, concluding the final home game in Oakland Athletics history. Their payroll is so low that the Dodgers are paying one player more money than every single Athletics player is getting paid combined. And so far, he's been worth every penny. This might be the best baseball player of all time. Last season, he was 3rd in his league in ERA, 2nd in strikeout percentage. Opponents were betting 183 against him, the lowest in MLB. Arguably the best pitcher in the American League, Ohtani was making a push for the Cy Young Award. Then he got hurt. Unable to pitch in 2024, he decided for 1 year he would just be a full-time designated hitter, and somehow a pitcher just put up unquestionably the best season for a DH in baseball history. He hit more home runs than any DH in history, had a higher OPS plus than any DH in history, is the only DH in history to have over 400 bases in a year, has scored more runs than any DH in history, and has more WAR than any DH in history. The second closest isn't even close. A pitcher is about to become the only DH in history to win an MVP award. But everyone knew Shohei could pitch. They knew he could hit. But at 6'4" and probably around 240 pounds, nobody knew he could do this. Turns out Ohtani is one of the best base stealers in the league. Last season, he only stole 20 bases. Before the season, Vegas predicted him to get 18.5 steals. Right now, he has 3 times more than that. He currently ranks 2nd in MLB in steals. He's only been caught stealing 4 times all year. Since July 23rd, he's tried to steal 35 times. Not a single catcher has successfully thrown him out. Without having to pitch, Ohtani focused on going for a 40-40 season. That's 40 homers and 40 steals in one season. It's only happened 5 times in history. And at the All-Star break, he had 23 steals. He got to 30 steals a week into August and didn't stop. In a game against Tampa, he only needed 1 more homer and 1 more steal to hit 40-40. He stole a base in the 4th. Then, in a tie game in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs, the Rays brought in a lefty to face Ohtani with the game on the line. And on the very first pitch,
Fly ball, right center field. Series going back. He's at the track. He's at the wall. 40-40. Walk-off grand slam.
Ohtani became the 6th player in history to go 40-40. Then, he just kept going. When the Dodgers did a Shohei bobblehead giveaway night, fans showed up at 5 a.m. to get one. 4 hours before the game started, there was 20,000 people in line to get one of these bobbleheads. It featured Shohei and his dog. That night, they were going for $300 a piece on eBay. The Dodgers even randomly gave away golden versions of this bobblehead. They were selling for $2,000 a piece. Ohtani trained his dog to throw out the first pitch. Then, in his very first at-bat, he hit a bomb. It also went on to steal 2 bases in this game. People thought Shohei getting 40-40 was impossible. Now it looked like he was going to get 50-50. That has never happened in baseball history. With about a week left to play, he had 48 homers and 49 steals. It seemed inevitable that within the next week, he would make history. Then, something insane happened. In an afternoon game in Miami, Ohtani came to the plate and roped a double. He then stole 3rd for his 49th stolen base. Just an inning later, Ohtani came up again and drove in a run with a single. Then, he immediately stole 2nd, making history with his 50th steal of the season. The very next inning, he roped another double. 2 innings later, he came up again, and Shohei Ohtani hit a bomb. Ohtani has come to the plate 4 times. He's hit an RBI single, has 2 doubles, has hit a homer, has 5 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases, and it's the 6th inning. Now, with 49 homers, the entire baseball world is tuning in to see if he can make history. In the 7th, he comes up again, and on a 1-2 count,
Ohtani sends one in the air, the other way, back it goes, gone!
in an absolutely mind-blowing performance, Ohtani just made history, the only player ever to go 50-50. Then he came up to the plate one more time.
This guy. Oh my gosh! Shohei Ohtani, the greatest day in baseball history!
Ohtani went 6 for 6 with 2 doubles, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 steals, got 17 total bases, became the only player ever to hit 3 home runs and steal multiple bases in a game, and created the 50-50 club in one day. But somehow, this guy had an even better day. Unfortunately now, this other guy is suing him because of it. But before we get to that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Game Time. Baseball playoffs are just around the corner, and there is nothing better on earth than watching playoff baseball live. And Game Time also offers tickets for football games, basketball games, soccer games, concerts, or pretty much any live event you can think of. They're introducing a new feature called Game Time Picks. When you get on the app, they will show you the best deals possible. You no longer have to waste time scouring different sections, different seats, going to different websites to find the best deal. Game Time will show them to you instantly. Literally, if you find a cheaper ticket, they have a price match guarantee that ensures you get the best deal possible. You can see your seat from the app. They have zone deals, flash deals. They have the cheapest tickets available and are known for having the best last minute deals. So if you need tickets for a game that's about to start, don't worry, just go to Game Time. I used Game Time for the first time ever in 2021, went to the World Series, and have been using it for any live event ever since. And now you can do the same. If you've ever wanted to see playoff baseball live, Game Time has you covered. Just download the Game Time app, make an account, and use code BDE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create an account and redeem code BDE for $20 off tickets that are already going to be cheap. Do it right now. Ohtani's 50th home run was history, meaning this ball is worth over $1 million. It hits off this net, lands on the table, fans swarm, they struggle over it, the ball gets loose under the table, this guy grabs it, these two struggle over it for a while, but at the end, this man ends up with the ball. And this guy was not happy about it. The fan was offered $300,000 by the Dodgers to give the ball to them. He refused, immediately left the stadium, and has put the ball up for auction. The starting bid was $500,000. The buy it now price is $4.5 million. The bidding is already at $1.2 million, and there are 17 days left to place a bid. This guy, however, is trying to stop that. He filed a complaint saying he was the one who grabbed the ball, but somebody wrapped their legs around his arm and wrangled the ball away from him. He wants a temporary restraining order that would stop the auction, hoping that in the meantime he can prove that he was the one who got the ball. The ball was stolen from him, so the ball and all the profits made from the sale would go to him. The judge has ruled this auction can occur, but the ball cannot be sold until the legal stuff is worked out. In the meantime, Ohtani and the Dodgers cruised through their 11th division title in 12 years. The Padres had a resurgent year and locked up a wildcard spot, while the Diamondbacks fought for their lives in one of the most bizarre wildcard races we've ever seen. After going to the World Series last year, not making the playoffs would be a massive disappointment. They're battling with the Braves, projected to win around 100 games, at one point having a 99% chance to make the playoffs. If they don't make it, it would be an even bigger disappointment. And these two teams are also battling with the Mets, who nobody thought would even come close. They were 11 games under 500 with only a 7.9 chance to make it. They had a reliever who just had a meltdown on the mound and got cut. Their star closer had just blown multiple saves and got benched, and their fans were going apeshit.
He just got loaded. Fuck, they're just rubbing it in. Fucking rubbing it in.
Then a Latin pop singer and a McDonald's mascot showed up. On May 31st, the Mets called up veteran infielder Jose Iglesias. A few days later, they let Grimace throw out the first pitch. Since this first pitch in June, the Mets have the best record in baseball. They won 7 games in a row immediately after this pitch. Grimace was all of a sudden in Times Square. He was seen chugging beers during a rain delay. He came in to distract the opposing team's pitcher. They even installed a purple seat in the stadium to honor Grimace's contributions. The Mets have made 0 sense. Last year, this guy wasn't even good enough to be on any MLB team. In fact, his baseball career looked so over, he started a singing career. When the Mets called him up from the minors, he made his own song that he made his walk-up song. His teammates loved it. It became their rallying cry, and after a game in New York, they even let him perform it on the field. He released a music video, he performed it at the All-Star game, and most importantly, while all this is going on, he's been arguably their best offensive player. He's 34 years old, has never been an offensive player in his career, who spent all of last season in the minors, but has put up insane numbers, leading the Mets from 11 games under 500 to somehow being in a playoff spot with only 1 week to play. 1 game ahead of the Atlanta Braves, a team that has had the complete opposite season. Projected to be the best team in baseball, anything less than a World Series would be a disappointment going into the year. Then they combined to miss 1,162 days due to injury. This team literally seems cursed. Their all-star catcher got hurt on the first day of the season. The Cy Young favorite, Spencer Strider, tore his UCL and missed the entire season. Ozzie Albies broke his toe. Austin Riley strained his oblique. They came back. Then last year's MVP, Ronald Acuna, tore his ACL and missed the rest of the season. Things got even worse. Michael Harris strained his hamstring and missed 2 months. Max Fried and Ronaldo Lopez both went down and missed some time. Ozzie Albies broke his wrist. AJ Minter needs surgery and is out for the season. And Austin Riley broke his hand and missed the rest of the season. According to preseason projections, Braves injuries have cost them 15 wins. That means without these injuries, they'd have the best record in baseball by far. But with them, they're only the 8th best team in baseball, tied with 3 other teams and not even a playoff team. However, even with injuries, Chris Sale had a Cy Young season out of nowhere. Ronaldo Lopez turned into a starter and has the 2nd lowest ERA in baseball. And as a team, they have the lowest ERA in the league. So despite the injuries, missing the playoffs is still a massive failure. But going into a 3-game series against the Mets with 1 week to play, they had to win at least 2 of these games to stay alive. The Mets have all the momentum. They've won 6 out of their last 7, multiple walk-offs. Their fans were celebrating in the streets. They seemed like a team of destiny, but in the very first game, Atlanta smoked them.
Another f***ing collapse! I have it again! It f***ing happened again!
It looked like another Mets collapse was coming. And then a literal hurricane ravaged the South. This was MLB's worst nightmare. The next 2 games had to be canceled, but with less than a week left, neither team has any more off days. With no more open days on the schedule, a makeup game is impossible. Typically, MLB would just not play these games, but depending on a few factors, these games could literally determine which one of these teams goes to the postseason. 3 teams, the Mets, Braves, and Diamondbacks, were fighting over 2 spots. In an almost impossible scenario, all 3 of them had over 60% chances to make the playoffs, while one of them was guaranteed to be eliminated. After the last day of the regular season, all 3 teams were tied, forcing them to extend the season 1 extra day and have the Mets and Braves play a doubleheader that determines who gets in. If both teams win 1 game, the Diamondbacks are eliminated. If the Braves win both games, the Mets are eliminated. But if the Mets win both games, the Braves are eliminated. But for the 2nd time in a week, Spencer Schwellenbach shut the Mets down with the season on the line. Ozzie Albies, who missed most of the year with injury, hit a 2-run bomb. The Mets had no answer. In the 8th inning, the Braves have a 94% chance to win this game, but the Mets led off with a double. Then they kept hitting. All of a sudden, with runners on second and third, Jose Iglesias clutches up and ties the game. A sac fly gives them the lead. Then Brandon Nimmo comes to the plate.
And Nimmo clocks one to deep right field. White goes back, takes a look, and it's out of here!
Crushing the Braves' dreams. Mets fans who looked like this were now looking like this. They just need 6 more outs to go to the playoffs. In a little bit of trouble, they bring in their all-star closer, Edwin Diaz. He gets a ground out, but doesn't cover first. But the Braves are still down 2 runs. Diaz is visibly wild. He walks the bases loaded, and Ozzy Albies comes to the plate. And on a 3-1 count,
that ball is hit out to left. Nimmo is back. Let's go! The Braves are going to grab the lead back.
this clears the bases, gives the Braves the lead, and the Mets are crushed. Now it's the Braves who just need 3 more outs to go to the postseason. The leadoff man gets out, but after a single, Francisco Lindor comes to the plate, and with the season on the line,
and Lindor gets under one to center field. Harris going back. It's back near the wall, and it's out of here.
At one point having a 7.9% chance to make the playoffs, the Mets are going to the postseason. And the Braves, who at one point had a 99% chance to make it, are now in a win or go home scenario. If things couldn't get any worse for the Braves, moments after this loss, it was announced that Chris Sale, their best pitcher, who was about to win the Cy Young, is injured and cannot pitch in Game 2. The Diamondbacks are watching this game knowing they need the Braves to lose or they are eliminated. The Braves, with no other options, pinch Grant Holmes. He's not only a rookie who's only made 6 starts in his entire career, he literally pitched the day before. Holmes had no idea he was pitching. He was told 30 minutes before the game that he was starting while he was in the middle of eating lunch. But a half hour later, he was lights out. Holmes threw 4 no-hit innings, and the Braves took an early lead again. But in the 5th, he runs into trouble. With runners on second and third, he's taken out of the game. Daysbel Hernandez comes in, strikes out 1, strikes out another, and gets the 3rd out. The Braves come back out swinging, score 2 more, and that's all it took, sending the Atlanta Braves to the playoffs on the very last game of the year. The Diamondbacks were eliminated, and the playoff field was set.